the clear blue skies in the background, enveloped by those thick, puffy clouds, and the cold breeze of the wind make you shiver in awe.
And eventually, you see a house being built by construction workers. And then later, you see a building not far from the house being built. Then there's some restaurants, a huge mall, and eventually, the quiet open space you once entered is now a town, with people and as busy as ever.
Now, what does this have to do with architecture? Well, if you pay close attention, houses, buildings, and stores were built. And do you know who does the decorating, the designing, the selecting of furniture, and even supervising the construction work? And even remodeling, redesigning, and repairing existing buildings? Well, you're right. It's the job of the architects.
But before we get carried away in mix-ups of details, we were lucky enough to interview an architect, Mr. Tony, in which we can know what the job truly is and what they really do with their career. We asked some questions to get information in architecture in general, and for us to know what's lying ahead in our college life.
Without further ado, let's start with the video.
Are the architectural group po from class mayor of Pasig City Science High School. So specifically, we po isang group of students na gusto mag-course ng course ng architecture. But without further ado, let us start off po yung interview by giving you po some simple questions ready by our group. So
si architect Tommy G. Muli. And then I'm an RLA. Ang RLA kasi is Registered Licensed Architect. I passed the board 1989.
Mr. Tommy Muli is an architect. Title positions are usually given to those who work at companies. But since he's a freelancer, he is simply an architect.
According to Architect Tommy, you need the heart in everything that you do, and everything will follow. You also have to be good in science because you'll be studying wind directions, weather, and wind force. For math, it is quite similar to the subjects in civil engineering. Logic and creativity are needed skills too. You must also be prepared to not sleep for 2 days because you'll be trained for deadlines.
In building a house, you will have two opponents, the engineer and the foreman. This has been a long-standing concern among foremen, architects, and engineers. As professionals, we should be aware of our limits and responsibilities. If the plan is structural engineers should be consulted. If the plan is architectural, architects should be approached. And if the plan is electrical engineers should be contacted. We must constantly adhere to our commitment to work in accordance with other professions. Did you know that there's a lawsuit concerning this? It is currently pending in the Senate, and until now they are still debating about it. And this kind of skill is a must in being an architect.
It depends upon the various skills or specializations architecture has to offer. Due to the APA law, business outsourcing in the field of architecture was made possible. The likes of overseas work. Designs for most of the high-rise buildings were made overseas only for the local architects to implement the design. A rule of Southeast Asian nations giving rise to the CPD law.
As per Architect Tommy, it depends upon an architect's field preference because an architect cannot participate in 2 or more fields. You may dive into the different fields as a stepping stone of experiences that serve as a confidence boost for your field of preference, knowing that you can do it. In the Philippines, the greatest option there may be is to be employed in architecture companies, the clientele not being the same or related to your job, such as accountants and marketing professionals. When studying architecture in the Philippines, Architect Tommy suggests focusing on one architecture section. If all goes too well and one idealizes more of a comprehensive study, courses abroad offer better architecture courses.
Opportunities and surprises await the journey of being an architect or the personal perks according to Architect Tommy. After persevering and enduring the different challenges and hardships for the courses in depth 5 years. During these prime years of the architect course, Architect Tommy recommends studying intensively with courage and determination of striving to become an architect in the future. Failure to do so might lead to cheating, a path where no one passes the board exam at a later time.
In the field of architecture, just like any other choice, there comes drawbacks for every work you encounter. After getting employed, the skills you have obtained and mastered represents your name in the image of a company. Though without contracts made, there will be no monetary benefits or incentives. The wage of an architect is tied with his or positions and status of a project. When getting contracts outside the company, the architect is most responsible for the outcome and the look of the project of carte blanche authority. Working for a company or not, each has its own advantages and disadvantages. For one, having contracts for a smaller project hones most skills of designing and creativity due to the amount of authority you have over the project.
According to Sir Tommy, there are possible incentives or compensations for the job in the Philippines. There is a standard fee established by United Architects wherein a certain percentage of the total construction cost, usually amounting to 5% set by UAP or the United Architects of the Philippines, and depending on the project and its discipline, will determine the fair shares of wages in a contract. We realize that in pursuing a career, you must always have the heart to do so. There is no such thing as an easy or an instant career because, whether we like it or not, pursuing a career takes a lot of time and hard work. What matters is that you keep going and you do not give up along the way. As long as you love what you do, success is guaranteed. So, that is all for our informative vlog for today. I hope you learned a lot about architecture because we surely did. Thank you all for watching. Until next time!